Hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Chris and today we're going to talk Range Rover reliability because it is notorious for not being very good. However, is that the case? And can you realistically rely on your Range Rover? Now, in my last video, I said that Range Rover had lots of issues with their latest model. And I think and hope that is improving. If your Range Rover is in the garage more than it's on the road, like some of the newer ones are, can you realistically think about buying one? So I've got an hour's journey to do today. I'm off to see my accountant. I'm on the road already. With an hour's drive to do, would I pick this over anything else to make sure I get there? And the answer is 100% no. Because I'd much rather be doing it in a brand new Rolls Royce. But I can't afford one of those today. I think the problem is with Range Rover and their reputation is they have such a large fan base online that talk openly and honestly about what they've done and the troubles they've had with their Range Rovers or Land Rovers. And because of that, there is this perception that Range Rovers are unreliable cars, but they're not. They're some of the most reliable cars I've ever owned, as long as they're well maintained. And the thing is they do drop like a stone. So your £80,000 Range Rover, I think this was probably £65,000-70,000, the one I'm driving today, when it was new, is now £10,000. And during that depreciation cycle, there are people along the way that buy a Range Rover that can't really afford to run a Range Rover. And those cars pass the problems and the maintenance on to the next person. And if you shop well and buy one with good service history and well maintained, I think they're some of the best cars you can buy. This car hasn't caused me any issues apart from the bits and pieces at the very beginning when I first bought the car. And the dealer put those right. And some of that was a bit of bad luck and just timing. It happened to be that the two hoses split on the moment I was picking up the car. They could have split the week before and I would never have known about it. But since then, I have made sure it's well maintained. I had all the gearbox oil, differential oil and engine oil changed the moment I bought it, even though the dealer said it had been serviced. That way, I knew that I had good fluids in the car and it should be reliable. And can you buy a new one? Because my last video, which I'll put a link up somewhere here, my last video, it felt like I was doing Land Rover, Range Rover a bit of an injustice because I was saying how bad they are. But every car company goes through a bad spot. I mean, BMW have got recall after recall. I think there's 250,000 cars being recalled. A BMW X1 I don't think can be sold at the moment. Now, don't quote me on this, do your own research, but I think it is fairly a fairly large problem. For BMW, I would say, on paper, if you asked anyone in the street what's more reliable, a Range Rover or a BMW, they would say the BMW. And the one thing they do say is, if you want to go out into the desert and drive a car that is going to look after you, you drive the Range Rover out, but if you want to come back, you'd always drive the Toyota. And I would love to compare the 4.5 V8 Land Cruiser to this car. So if you have one out there that you'd be happy for me to film, I would love to get the Toyota Land Cruiser on the channel because I think that's an epic car. It's not going to be as refined as this in comfort and ride. It won't have the same feel as this, but it does ride on air suspension, I believe, and I do think it'll be a very smooth car. But I think every car brand out there has a dodgy 5 minutes. And I wouldn't necessarily say a Range Rover is more likely to break down in the middle of the Sahara Desert over a Land Cruiser. I think you can be unlucky in both. Now, I did look, when I bought this, I did look at a Land Cruiser, but they are similar age to this, or even slightly older with higher miles, would be 2 or 3 times the price. And I know that's supply and demand. There's not very many of them out there, and there are plenty of Range Rovers. from depreciation terms, what was that, a 50, 60,000 pound car probably? And it didn't sell very well, so I bet you could have got a deal at the dealership when it was brand new. So it's lost probably less than 50% of its value in 10 years. Now that's some cheap motoring. And I know there'll be Land Cruiser fans out there going, well, that's because it's the most reliable car on the road. And you might be right. But I wonder whether it gives you the same feeling driving it. You know, I've driven my camper van, do some videos for you over the last week, and I have also driven my Rolls Royce. And this has been parked up for 4 or 5 days, and it got to last night and I was thinking, quite looking forward to taking the Range Rover out tomorrow. And I don't know what it is about it. I don't know what they've done to make me want to take the Range Rover out. But they have. And am I worried that it's going to break down? I've never even given it a second thought. It just starts and goes. But I had this car serviced back in February, I think. So February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, 7 months. And in 7 months, I've not had a single problem. The only downside of this car, which someone reminded me of the other day, is the road tax. This costs £700 a year to put on the road. My Rolls Royce is £400. And how do they figure that out? I almost do the highways agency a favour driving this, because it doesn't matter too much about the potholes that they haven't repaired. And even I've had a couple of people comment where they've said I'm on my third Range Rover L322 because they've run one to 200,000 miles and gone back and bought a younger one. One thing I might do in the next few months leading up to Christmas as an additional car for the channel is I might buy the 3.6 TD V8 that preceded this. So should you consider one of these as your family daily runaround for less than £10,000, as long as you can afford a couple of grand in a pot, just in case the turbos go, because that can be a couple of grand, and you're willing to service and maintain it well, then I think you should. Because for me, I don't worry too much about this car. And as we get into winter, one thing I do love about this car, but not very many people know about, is the diesel heater it has in the mornings. I've got a separate little fob so that when you come out in the mornings in winter, you don't have the problem of de-icing the car, and you get into a really nice toasty environment. And at that point you can then put on your heated steering wheel, your heated seat. And that's another thing with the diesel heater. If you want that to work properly, you probably do need to keep on top of your battery to make sure it hasn't been run flat because you haven't used it, because a good battery is needed to run that diesel heater, because it is using the 12-volt battery. So if you left it on, you will come out to a flat battery. But I've never had that problem. I put it on 10 minutes before I go out the door. And I think Land Rover, on reliability, I think they are still the leading brand with the highest percentage of cars ever produced that are still on the road. And listen, I'm doing 70 miles an hour, there's a bit of wind noise, so for build quality, listen for rattles, that's what I always say, and there's none. Not a single rattle in here. I can't say that about other cars I've owned. It is pretty well reliable. I mean, I'm 18 months in. I thought I'd keep this car for about 3 to 6 months, and I just can't get rid of it. What do you buy for 10 grand that's as good as this? So if you want a family car that's reliable, that's relatively quick, 7 odd seconds to 60, that can go anywhere and do anything, that you can put bikes in the back, child seats on the back seats, heated seats in the front, heated seats in the back, heated steering wheel for winter. Remember that little fob I've got that warms the car up in winter too? If you want all those creature comforts and not have to pay Tesla prices, then you should most definitely go and buy a Range Rover. And I will leave you with that supreme bit of car purchasing advice. And remember to please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button so you get notified the next time a video is out. It's 6 o'clock, a new video went out just about 2 hours ago now. and I hope you've watched it already. Once you've done all those things, please watch another video that's probably going to appear here or down there, because subscribing to the channel, following the content, watching all the video really does help. And tomorrow I'm back out filming in the Rolls Royce, so if you're Rolls Royce fans rather than Range Rover fans, I'm filming for you tomorrow. And I'm trying to do a mix, a bit of Range Rover, a bit of Rolls Royce, and then a third video of a bit of something else. So on that note, I bid you farewell. I thank you very much for liking, subscribing and hitting that bell notification button, don't forget. Remember, my Instagram is down below, please follow me there. I am slowly building that as time allows. And I wish you well, and I bid you farewell.